We arrived in Prairieville later that evening, but you know, those bounty hunters had arrived there before we had, and now they was offering $300 reward for any information on me, and that was a lot of money in those days. So the whole town was out there searching for me. My new friends, the Dohertys, they could have been arrested just for helping me. Well, now, one morning, we was just sitting around the Doherty's kitchen table, you know, just talking. All of a sudden, front door opens and a neighbor man walks in. Now, he didn't knock or say hello or anything. He just stood there staring at me for what seemed like the longest time. I couldn't run or hide or anything. Finally, he left out as soon as he came. Miss Doherty said she didn't trust him, said she thought he was going to turn us into those bounty hunters, and sure enough, the very next day, I could see those men coming up the road to get me. Well, I just had to get out of there, but the Doherty's house was a tiny little house, and the only way out was that front door. I couldn't leave out that way. But Miss Doherty, she was a clever lady, and she had a plan. Her daughter, Ann, helped me on top of a barrel in the cellar, and I pushed and clawed my way out on my belly, out of a potato chute, and into the field behind the house where those men would never find me. Miss Doherty told me this afterwards. She told me when she saw those men coming up the road to get me, she needed to give me plenty of time to escape. So she grabbed her bucket and her brush, and she began scrubbing paints. And when those men come up onto her porch and knock on her door, she answered it all angry, like they had just interrupted her cleaning. When
the sick and the wounded were being brought in from the swamps by returning regiments and upriver on boats to makeshift hospitals, mere sheds filled with cots side by side, so close one could scarcely pass between them. There were 100 men there, suffering from every disease that flesh is heir to: pneumonia, typhoid, and camp fever, and that fearful scourge of the southern swamps and rivers, chronic diarrhea, occupied every bed. The surgeon said, "There is nothing else here. There I see pneumonia, and on that cot fever, and on that cot another disease, and I see nothing else. You had better stay away. The air is full of contagion, and contagion and sympathy go not well together." Their only nurses were the convalescent patients who went pale and tottering through the rooms, doing, it is true, all that they could, but sometimes they would just get sick again. There was one surgeon there, one surgeon for the entire regiment. The first assistant had gone home, and the second assistant was himself sick. As I passed through these hot, uncomfortable, unventilated, infected, wretched, unclean rooms, a hand reached out, clutched my dress. Another caught my shawl and kissed it. One soldier placed my hand to his fevered cheek. Another cried out in wild delirium, "I want to go home. I want to go home. Lady, lady, take me away in your chariot. Take me away." Sick men cried like children. Some of them were only boys. "Oh, my mother," they would say. "My mother, can I go home, Mrs. Harvey?" On these cots, I failed to see disease and delirium and looming death. I saw the sons and brothers, husbands and fathers of anxious, weeping families at home, and as such,